Mr. Speaker, I join others today standing on Treaty 1 territory and on the homeland of the Métis Nation to recognize the events of 25 years ago. It was an event of major historic importance when the Meech Lake Accord died on June the 23rd. After a series of events which involved Elijah Harper standing up and denying leave and making sure that the Meech Lake Accord would not pass here in Manitoba, and of course that meant it would not pass in Canada. It was a recognition of the fact that Aboriginal people, Indigenous peoples in Canada, First Nation people, the Métis, the Inuit, have a fundamental and tremendously important role in our country, and a recognition of the fact that they should never be forgotten or left behind or omitted as they were tragically from the Meech Lake Accord. It was an important turning point because since then there have been many legal rulings, including quite a number of Supreme Court rulings, which affirm the rights of Aboriginal people and affirm the fact that Aboriginal people need to now and moving forward always be considered in many of the decisions that we make, and always need to be consulted in what happens. It is important that we salute Elijah Harper and the many others, chiefs in particular who are involved with Elijah, but of course there was much more depth than just the chiefs because there were many others. Phil Fontaine, Raymond Swan, Louis Stevenson, Andy Anderson, Ovid Mercury, Joe Guy Wood, Pascal Bigotty, and so many others. It was indeed a coalition. It was indeed a movement, a strong movement of many, many people. It is interesting that June the 23rd of 1990 was also the date that Jean Chrétien became the leader of the Liberal Party. And Jean Chrétien and Minister Irwin, who was with him, and the rest of the team put forward a number of initiatives, including many new schools in First Nations communities, an initiative to have a look at self-government for First Nations people in Manitoba. And indeed, last year we had the first First Nation Sioux Valley develop and come forward as a First Nation with self-government. And although there is still a tremendous amount that is still to do, there has been some steps forward. We, of course, still have much work to do to complete the recommendations of the Aboriginal Justice Inquiry, to attend to the matters which have been brought up in the Royal Commission on Aboriginal People, and in the dealing with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and its report, the executive summary, which came out very recently. We also have much to do to improve the situation of Aboriginal communities, to improve the situation of Aboriginal children, because today we still have far too many, about 11,000 children in care, the preponderance of which are First Nation and Métis and some Inuit. The work goes on, Mr. Speaker. It must go on. It must give us better results and a better relationship among all in Manitoba and in Canada. It must address difficult issues like racism. The efforts of Elijah Harper and so many others which we recognize today must be part of our effort to look back and remember, but also part of our effort to recognize how much there is still to do and how much we are challenged with as we sit here today as MLAs in continuing the work that has begun but must continue and continue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Miigwech, merci, ekosani.